So you want to be a dungeon master?
That's great. We're here to help. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Justin. This week, we're going over toolkits. That's right, we're diving deep into the tools available for players and dungeon masters in D&D. At some tables, these can be overlooked, forgotten, cast aside. But not up in here. Not up in here! Because we know that tool proficiencies open up a lot of interesting roleplay and mechanical opportunities if you just think a little bit outside the box. So let's get into it. But first... Always gotta be the first. Toolkits and stuff are a great thing to get into during downtime specifically. That's like the easiest, I guess, way of introducing, the use of toolkits in your game is downtime. But let's go over how we would do downtime activities using toolkits. How would you, as a DM, you got downtime going on? Is there stuff that you would allow your players to do? Where do you draw the line with what's impossible or whatever? Anything coming to mind?
Yeah, so it really, obviously it depends on the kit. An Alchemist supply kit or something like that, I would allow like some potion, some kind of brewing stuff going on in the downtime. I know that there are like quote unquote hard rules about potion crafting in the game. So that's a good time to kind of work all that stuff in there because a lot of potions take like months
too long
to create.
Yeah.
Way too long.
And insane.
That's a different episode.
Right.
But there's going to be a whole episode of us just griping about the things that we don't like about. No, probably not. I don't know.
We could do a whole episode on crafting. For sure.
And then brewer supplies. Obviously, sure. You want to make some beer or some mead or whatever, go for it. A lot of these are, some of them would be kind of difficult to do, like navigator's tools. What are you going to do with navigator's tools in downtime? Like, that's one of those things that, like...
Yeah, and, like, I can think of it all... There's so much context here. Like, it depends on where the campaign is, like, why are you guys doing a downtime, where you are in the story and stuff like that. Because, like, maybe you use navigator's tools to plot your next part of the journey.
That's true. Yeah.
Or something like that. Like, to kind of look at a bunch of maps and figure out what the best course of travel is. But yeah, I think it's interesting. The easiest answer, I think, for downtime with like almost any toolkit is like a side hustle. It's just like,
yeah, for sure.
You're making some extra money on the side. It could be a really funny thing to have
just
your
open
character.
up a fantasy Etsy.
Yeah, and just making a bunch of cool stuff with whatever toolkit you're proficient with, and having this nice little side hustle and making some passive income or something like that is a really interesting downtime activity. And then past that, it's really going to be specific. Downtime is challenging to use some of the toolkits.
Yeah.
Other than a side hustle. Side hustle easy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of them, like the what are called the artisan's tools, are probably a lot easier to use in downtime as opposed to some of the other toolkits, like glassblower's tools or carpenter's tools or something like that would be a lot easier to use than in a downtime situation than like I already brought it up, but the navigator's tools or thieves' tools. You could go around, I guess, and sneak into people's houses, but that's kind of like a non-downtime thing at that point. Like you're talking potential combat, you're talking some other type of stuff, so it's not really something I would consider downtime.
Yeah. You could, and I only learned this through some of the research about toolkits with with thieves' tools. You could also create traps.
Oh, okay.
So there's always that.
So that would be something handy to do.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I think it really comes down to, it's interesting because the books don't tell us a lot. They try, Lord help them, but they don't tell us a lot. They tell us a little bit of basic information, and then it's up to us to carry the torch from here and come up with some interesting ideas outside the box. So before we get into like super meat of the episode, just quick knee-jerk reaction. What's your favorite toolkit?
Alchemist kit.
Oh, Love it.
Alchemist kit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I love my potions and my chemicals, my little acid traps and stuff like that. Acid bombs.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think my favorite. Oh boy, it's actually really hard because there's a couple that I really do like. I probably would go thieves' tools. I think I think that they're just so crucial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
you're not wrong.
We've
You're
all been in
wrong.
Baldur's Gate where like you run out of thieves' tools and you're like, it's really not going to let me even try. Like, let me use a dagger. Like,
oh man,
my DM lets me use a dagger. This fucking game is bullshit.
In Baldur's Gate, I have Astarion he's got like the weird cat's grace armor. Plus he's got insane expertise, proficiency in it. He like literally cannot roll below a 20.
Yep.
It's absolutely banana sandwich. So like most of the time I'm not really worried about it. I think he has like 20 or 30 freaking thieves tools on him because they just never break.
Yeah, you're
they just never break.
It's in those early days when you're like,
yeah,
it's the same thing. Like the first time you find a pile of dirt and you're like, I don't have a shovel. Like I can't. So what? I just can't dig this. Like fuck you.
I have hands.
I know, it's so ridiculous.
Karlach is here.
I can. This is insane. But yeah, I would have to go thieves tools. They're just crucial. They're so important. Yeah. It's such an interesting part of D&D that has evolved alongside the genre that about just like thieves and rogues and like their importance to this system and stuff like that. Whether it's disarming traps or picking locks, I just think it's fucking crucial. Yeah. It's always so interesting when there's no rogue in the group. When you're the DM and you have to be like, okay, interesting. How are they going to get through this trap infested thing? Like okay. An interesting challenge for them. Because you can also, here's another downtime activity. You could also become proficient with a toolkit, maybe, depending on how much time you have and where you are and how your DM handles that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's something good to do with the downtime too, is if somebody's interested in something like that, then yeah, you can spend some of your downtime working on proficiency with X toolkit. You want to
take a class at the community center.
Yeah, exactly.
Take a class at the community center. The teacher wears overalls and has a paintbrush keeping her messy bun up. And she's a furbolg. Fantasy. We did it.
Fantasy University of Phoenix Online.
Yes, exactly. I took karate classes online.
Nice. I don't know how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get into the meat of the episode.
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
Toolkits. What are they? I mean, pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Almost all of the toolkits, you kind of figure out what they are just based on what they're called. Alchemist supplies.
100%.
Those are supplies that an alchemist would use, baby. It's pretty simple.
Easy peasy.
So, like, that's pretty simple. But the interesting thing about toolkits is that, and this was something that I was confused about when I first started playing D&D, is that proficiency in a toolkit is its own thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the easy example is rogues. Rogues get your thieves tools, and then you also can choose like sleight of hand. Those are technically two different things. Like sometimes it gets conflated, and I think that's totally fine. It's much easier that way to just be like, make a sleight of hand check to pick this lock. Yeah, I'm fine with that. But technically,
so they were conflated in older editions, like 3.5. There were no like toolkits. It was just a sleight of hand check.
Yeah. And now, by all means, conflate them again. But technically, it's slightly more complicated. So you can be proficient in sleight of hand, but not proficient in thieves' tools. And that means that you're really good at picking pockets, not necessarily very good at picking locks. And each toolkit has the potential of using all these different abilities. You know, like thieves' tools is pretty standard. It's almost always dexterity, right? But if you look at something like navigator's tools or forger's kit or a tinker tools or something like that, it could use 2 or 3 different abilities. And then the way that would work is the DM should tell you which one it's going to be. And then from there, it's as simple as saying, okay, roll a d20, add your proficiency, assuming you're proficient with the toolkit, and then also add your intelligence or your dexterity, or you could do like charisma for Forger's Kit if you're trying to do like be very deceptive.
Right. Yeah. Do a deception check type of deal.
Yeah. And like normally as a DM, the way I'll decide which skills to do, sometimes it depends on 2 things. One, what are they trying to do specifically? Sometimes a specific ability just pops out and it like makes the most sense. So you just go with that one. Other times I will work with the player and figure out what skills they're good at.
Yeah.
And kind of ask for those.
100%. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Because I mean, you do like the toolkits are really, like you said at the top, kind of glossed over a bunch. So it kind of, you want the player to succeed when using these because they don't get used very often, at least in my opinion. Like if they're trying to do something outlandish, then for sure set the DC super high. But like a lot of the day-to-day uses of a lot of these toolkits, I don't want them to fail with it, you know? So I want them to be using something that they're good at.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it really is like, it depends on the character sometimes. Because I like most of the time, people aren't using toolkits a ton, especially not on a daily basis or anything like that. And then there's like one character who uses it all the time in one of my games. And it's because she's playing a gunslinger, forge cleric. It makes sense that she's constantly tinkering. Yeah. Because she's making new kinds of bullets. She's making new kinds of weapons and guns and stuff. So it's like, of course, she's crafting all the time. It's like a big part of her character build.
Yeah, and I play an artificer on our Mythos run right now. And one of the cool things about artificers is they're like proficient with every toolkit pretty much.
Yeah.
Just because they can just make any toolkit.
Yeah,
so it makes sense to use a bunch of different tools as him.
Yeah, and hopefully after this episode, future artificers, stay tuned because we're going to be talking about the artificer pretty soon. And also, by the end of this episode, hopefully you have a greater appreciation for some of those wild-ass toolkits you never thought you'd use. With the exception of gaming sets. Hey, gaming sets, go fuck yourself. I hate you. Other than that, although there was like one very specific thing that I found and I was like, okay, I guess that's interesting, but still stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, all different kinds of stuff. You can use different abilities. Kind of, sometimes it's, like I said, very obvious, and other times you have a little more fun with it and think, not necessarily outside the box, but like, so for the gunslinger, when she is making a new item and she's never made it before, I make her use intelligence.
Okay.
But once she's got it, once she's made it, she has the blueprint, I let her use dexterity. And some of that has to do with, I think that those 2 things make sense in my head. But also, she's decent at intelligence. She's better at dexterity. So the idea that the very first time you make this new item, of course, your chances of failure are higher. And that's reflected by the fact that her intelligence isn't as high as her dex. So it kind of works out perfectly. And I can tailor the situation to that player specifically because it's so unique. And it's not too much for me to keep track of because it's just like one player in one game.
For now,
yeah, I know. Fucking artificers and shit. It's crazy that she doesn't have artificer at all.
It's especially crazy because artificers specifically get firearm proficiency. Like it's in the rulebook.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think it was because she wanted to try the what the hell is it called? The specific gunslinger subclass of fighter.
Yeah.
So there are some really cool, interesting benefits to it. It's not the best subclass in the world, but I mean, she gets 2 shots so early on. And then also there's a million other different crazy ways for her to get more shots. And I've homebrewed a lot of guns, like shotguns and different things. So it's absolutely nuts. Yeah. She has a shotgun that's titled Namaste the fuck back.
Hilarious.
You have to beat yourself in an insight check, and it reduces the spray of the shotgun pellets.
Huh.
So it's like a coming together, like an enlightenment. We are all one, and you are essentially putting that like mental focus into the bullets and like reducing the spray. It's just a stupid idea. It was really just because the name made me laugh, and I was like, "What would this look like?" Though?
That's a really good one.
What mechanics would this have? I stole so many ideas from video games. So many, in fact, so many. But anyway, so where can you find some information on toolkits? Obviously, Player's Handbook is a great way to start. There's also Xanathar's Guide to Everything, has a lot of information. I don't know yet what the new Player's Handbook talks about in reference to toolkits. I'm sure that they'll change something so small and tiny and unnecessary, but who knows? My recommendation is to head over to dnd5e.wiki.com/tools.
Yep.
That site kind of puts everything in one place. It's so simple and easy. You can look up what is in the toolkits themselves, how much they cost, how much they weigh, all the different types of instruments that are normally available in a fantasy setting. It goes over description. So like, hey, Poisoner's Kit, what's in that? Boom, I'm looking at it right now. It includes vials, chemicals, other equipment necessary for the creation of poison, whatever. And then it even, like, there's the whole Xanathar's Guide to Everything tool descriptions below that, and you can click on every single one that we're going to talk about. It goes over what's in the kit, different examples of things that you can do with it, like different skill checks, and we're going to go over all of that. But it's all in one place. I could not recommend this site enough, and we are not sponsored by them.
No, honestly, that's where we get a lot of our research notes from, is from that dnd5e.wiki.com.
Yeah.
There's so much good information there. It's literally, as far as I can tell, it's got every bit of,
published stuff.
5th edition published works on there.
In regards to
easily
the
searchable form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got everything. And it's all in one place. A lot of things are clickable, so you can like open up a new tab with, the spell list of something that you want to look at. Like, it's just so helpful. I use it constantly. And it's all there and free, which is why I don't use D&D Beyond. And it's the main reason. It's just because I don't want to pay for it. But let's go over all these tools.
All of them.
Because
Let's do it.
So stinking many.
So many. There's so many.
Would you like to kick us off with, since we're going alphabetical, your favorite one is at the top, might as well.
My favorite one's right up at top. All right, so you start off with the Alchemist supplies. This is basically potion crafter stuff. You get your vials, you get your chemicals and all that stuff. With the Alchemist supplies, you can do a couple of other things. And again, these are kind of more guidelines than actual rules. But some of the things you can do with it, like you could do a Arcana check. If you're proficient with Alchemist supplies, you can, if you're not necessarily proficient in Arcana, you can use your supplies to gain proficiency in it. So but it would only be for like learning stuff about a potion that you found or some kind of chemical on the ground or something along those lines. Like you could identify that type of stuff because you're proficient with alchemy. Like you're an alchemist. You know how all this stuff works and how to recognize different things. Same kind of deal with investigation. It'd be the same kind of situation. You'd be able to, add a proficiency to it that you wouldn't necessarily have maybe. But again, it would be looking for, specific, okay, well, they used this chemical and that together. So that's, I can kind of figure out where maybe they could have gotten something from or something along those lines. You get more info regarding the chemicals or material components that were used in some kind of a potion. And then obviously you can use them to craft potions and stuff like that. Alchemist Fire, antitoxin, you can make acid vials, stuff like that. This is going to be more downtime because rules as written, potion crafting takes a long time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it does.
obviously that's something you want to talk with your players about and let them know, hey, just because you're an alchemist doesn't mean you can just start cranking out greater healing potions. That's like a 4 to 6 month process.
Yeah, it's brutal. It is brutal.
But yeah, so alchemist supplies generally is going to be on your intelligence side of things. I could see it maybe used as wisdom, to maybe determine whether something is a healing potion or a poison potion type of deal. Kind of like an insight check maybe on what that potion is another use that I would allow at my table. It's not necessarily specifically listed, but I'd allow it.
Yeah, I probably would too. I think Alchemist is one of those ones where it feels so useful right off the bat because just the idea of you're constantly going to be around potions throughout the campaign, I imagine.
For sure, yeah.
But it's such an interesting idea too, and this is going to hold true for all of them, is that you're going to see a lot of like, oh, you could use this to make an investigation check. That way, if this specific crafted tradesman item is here, you could check it out. And it's like,
right.
If you're the DM and like certain players have those proficiencies, this is your moment to like when you're thinking of like what could the clues be, like what are they going to find in the crime scene other than the dead body or whatever. Like,
for sure.
Oh, I know I have somebody who has alchemist supplies. There's a random ass chemical on the ground. And there you go. You've given the player who has alchemist supplies something to use them with.
Exactly.
Because
so it is going to be they're going to be heavily dependent on you as the DM to make them relevant for the most part. The players are going to come up with some stuff, but a lot of it, especially when it comes to like clues and plot points and stuff like that, that's going to fall on you to make sure that they know that they've got it and that they know that they can use it.
Yeah, definitely. And next up, we have brewer's supplies. So the way that it's written in the books is that it is specifically the art of producing beer. Not only does beer serve as an alcoholic beverage, but the process of brewing purifies water. And then there's fermentation and all this different kinds of stuff. Here is the thing. I think you could brew a lot of stuff. You could have fun with this. As somebody who, like, I personally don't drink anymore, I guarantee that if you went to a DM and you were like, can I use brewer supplies but for coffee because you're brewing coffee? Haha. I cannot fucking imagine a DM who's like, no, you must brew beer and only beer. Do you know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe the hang up is like, okay, but if you guys come across a actual beer brewery, your character isn't going to be able to use your brewer supplies because that's not your specialty, which is fine. I don't know. That's just, I'm thinking outside the box because it really is like all about that. Even in the components you get a large glass jug, a quantity of hops, a siphon, and several feet of tubing. There's a part of me that really wants to use all this stuff and just be a moonshiner. Really want to be a moonshiner, dude. Yeah. That's a really interesting idea. Fantasy moonshiner. Wow. There you go.
I mean, I feel like in the fantasy setting, though, it's not like it's prohibition or something along those lines where it's not necessarily illegal to make.
I know. So now you have to think, why am I doing this in the woods under the moonlight? There could be so many answers to that. Maybe the thing I'm making is so high proof that it is illegal. Or maybe only my character thinks it's illegal. My character operates under the delusion that we are in a prohibition.
Right. And then you're like, all right, cool. Here, you want some of this?
Constantly,
really why don't you sell this at the store? What, are you fucking crazy?
What, are you fucking crazy? You mad, man? Walk into a tavern, I'm like, Jesus, dude. I can't believe the fuzz hasn't cracked down on this place yet.
That's such a funny like idea of a character.
It's a really interesting idea. So yeah, with brewer supplies, downtime, make a bunch of ale and beer or other alcohol or whatever. Like I said, you could probably switch it because there's no winemakers tools. It's just brewers. It's the only beverage creation that they have here. Have fun with it. If you want to be, specialize in teas, or coffees or whatever, like have fun with it. You want to, I think I was going to say something big milk related, but I imagine there might be other skills for that. But anyway, now here's some of the things you could do with brewer supplies. Right off the bat, obviously you have your history checks, events that have alcohol or beverages as an important element. Maybe you get a little bit of a leg up on that. Medicine checks. If anybody has alcohol poisoning, hey, buddy, you know what's up. It also gave the example of using alcohol to dull the pain, which I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Just like so funny to me. And then persuasion. Obviously, you can use alcohol to lubricate a social interaction, which is another interesting one. And then the really like fascinating one that you kind of forget about, I guess, maybe I do, is just the idea that there is, I mentioned it in the beginning, but like you have to purify water in order to make a lot of different alcohols and stuff like that. So you, with brewer supplies, you'll be able to purify water. So in a survival kind of situation where you're out in the wilderness, having brewer supplies is actually potentially life-saving.
Yeah. I don't know how often I've checked to see if the party had potable water with them.
Oh, not a once, but if in a, there's like every once in a while, maybe I'll do a setting, like a very specific setting or like series that is a bigger deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But most of the time, yeah, it's just kind of assumed like you guys can do this, especially once you hit like slightly higher levels where it's like, I'm not going to ask for survival checks every single rest. Like, I know you guys are finding food. It's fine. But yeah, that's brewer supplies.
Cool. The next set that we got is going to be the calligrapher's supplies. This is going to be like a nice fancy pen and ink and, you know, some paper and stuff. This is basically, you know, calligraphy is just writing fancy, basically, in my opinion. So, you know, the stuff that you're going to be able to do with this is going to be able to like recognize different styles of writings, magical writings and stuff like that. You could even potentially, with a high enough check, figure out who wrote something specifically. You know, you're also going to be good at, you know, analyzing ancient writings and texts and stuff like that. One of the more interesting things that they've put in here is that you're able to decipher a treasure map. So, like, you can do intelligence to, like, figure out how old this map is, whether it's got any hidden messages or anything in it. So it's kind of like a cryptographer type of vibe is kind of what I'm getting, is, you know, your ability to read and find hidden messages in text.
Yeah. Very like national treasure.
Yeah. Oh man, if we hold it up to the heat, it's gonna add 4 letters to this word that means something different.
Hell yeah.
Type of deal. It does say there is this specific kit later on that we'll talk about called the forgery kit. But the calligrapher's supplies basically allows you to forge a signature, possibly, or be able to spot if a signature or something has been forged. Is really what the big thing of that is. It's just specifically the writing portion of it. But I mean, other than that, I mean, it's really just writing, fancy writing.
Yeah.
And being able to recognize different types of fancy writing.
Yeah. There you go.
That's calligrapher's supplies.
There you go. Calligrapher's supplies. Next up, carpenter's tools. Pretty straightforward. You're good at carpentry. The tools include a saw, a hammer, nails, a hatchet, a square, a ruler, an adze. What the fuck is that?
It is another. It's like a table tool almost. It's like a no, that's wrong. It's like a hatchet but sideways.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like scoop stuff.
Yeah. So you
with
can
it
scoop
rather than try to hatch it. Yeah.
Yeah. That way you get those Lincoln logs together.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. And also a plane and a chisel. So pretty obvious stuff. I mean, you could do a bunch of things with it. History, investigation, perception. Obviously, you're like really good at understanding the origin of wooden buildings or large wooden objects, so you get a leg up on history checks. Investigation and perception. Hey, you know wood. So when you see it, you know the tricks of the construction and all that kind of stuff. You also can spot irregularities, so it's easier for you to find trapdoors and secret passages, assuming that the structures are made of wood. It even has like some like ones I found really interesting also were like stealth. You get a little bit of a leg up with stealth checks because you can identify squeaky floorboards.
Crazy.
Really, really interesting. I liked that a lot. Have you ever seen Squid Game?
I did too. I have.
It's like
You're talking about the glass guy, where he's like,
yeah,
I can tell.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's really, really interesting. And then other things that you can do with carpenter's tools is fortify stuff. So with 1 minute of work in raw materials, you can make a door or a window harder to force open, increasing the DC needed to open it by 5.
Crazy.
That's sick. You can also create a temporary shelter. So as part of a long rest, you can create a lean-to or similar shelter that you can keep your group dry and in the shade. So
hell yeah.
That's a really interesting little, a bunch of different things you can do with carpenter's tools. Really, really, I like that a lot.
Very handy kit.
Plus, it'd be interesting. I mean, I like all these too because it starts me thinking on like, why is my character so good with these tools? You know? And it starts, I mean, we had that discussion when we did the backgrounds episode about like, how useful are they really? Like, and mechanically, there's not a ton, but when it comes to the RP and the story and all that kind of stuff, it can get a little more heady and interesting when it's like, why does my character not only good with carpenter tools, but why are they trying to apply carpenter's tools to everything in their adventuring life? And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
When you're a hammer, all you see is nails.
Too funny.
Moving on.
Moving on to the next one. The cartographer's tools. This is going to be regarding map making. You get quill, ink, parchment, some compasses, calipers, and a ruler. But yeah, this is just basically knowledge about maps. Being able to also kind of do that same national treasure type of deal, but it's more for like the detail of the map. Like, okay, well this map says there's a little cove in there that's not on this map, or something like that. You can do it kind of goes into like the surveying side of things too, so you're good at like making maps and recognizing how different geographical stuff plays into how the maps are made and all that stuff. And obviously, you're pretty good at survival and navigation because you're a map maker. You basically can quote unquote have the map in your head type of deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's pretty much anything and everything maps that you can do with the cartographer's tools. Figure out how old a map is, whether or not geography has changed since the map was made. You can tell if it's a fake map. Or one of the specific activities that's listed here is you can fill in a missing part of a map. Like if you've got a map that's missing a chunk, you can fill it in, which would be a cool little like DM player moment.
Yeah.
We have this clue. That's the map. Like it's a map, but like the top corner's missing. That's okay. I can fill it in.
That's okay. That's okay.
I got it, guys.
Guys,
I'm a cartographer.
I'm a cartographer.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much in a nutshell what cartographer's tools are. There are a million different checks and stuff that you can make with it. Most of them are going to be intelligence related, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, great. Incredible.
Yeah.
After cartographers, we have the cobblers, the shoemakers. You're making all kinds of shoes and stuff. There's some really obvious stuff here. I mean, the tools consist of a hammer, an awl. That's a word that I hate because it's like, it's just weird in my mouth. An awl. Yeah, I don't like it. A knife, a shoe stand, a cutter, spare leather, and thread. Now, you're making shoes. How useful can that possibly be during an adventure? Let me tell you. First of all, with Arcana and History, you're going to be able to identify magical properties of different kinds of shoes and boots. Okay?
Nice.
With investigation checks, hey, you're going to be able to check out someone's shoes, and you might be able to tell out where they came from, like where they've been. Hey, you have a very specific red dust on your boot heel.
Jeez.
That means that you were found in this area or something like that. You're just an expert in shoes. So if it's got to do with shoes, I would allow like a cobbler to maybe be good at like tracking footprints if they were shoes specifically, you know? And then,
well, I mean, boots and shoes are the same. Yeah, like I wouldn't allow animal tracking.
That's what
like
I mean.
A humanoid wearing boots are, yeah, for sure.
That's what I mean. Like, and they could maybe tell you like how many people there were, assuming it's like a group of people who were wearing shoes. You could tell if like one of them had a limp because you're an expert in shoes. You know how people wear shoes and the marks that they make and all these different things. And another way to help the party through your cobbling is by maintaining shoes, helping your friends out by keeping their shoes good. I mean, we've all, maybe not all of us, I'm sure a lot of us have been on a hike where pretty early on you're like, back of my heel kind of
my feet
feels a little weird. And then by the end of that hike, you're crying. The biggest blister. A big old blister. It's not fun. It absolutely sucks, stuff like that. So when a cobbler maintains your shoes, you can travel for longer without exhaustion, which is really fun. Which is another thing they changed in the new player's handbook, is how exhaustion works. It's still 6 points, but I think it like, instead of, you know how right now exhaustion at each point you get different stuff? Like first it's disadvantage with all that. I think it's just across the board, and almost any D20 roll, you get a minus.
Right. Okay.
So 1 point exhaustion, you get a -1, 2 points, a -2, so on and so forth. Plus some other stuff too, like your speed gets reduced. I think you heal less. I forget all the stuff. I don't know. Yeah, it's another unnecessary thing. Like it's so easy to just bing what are the points of exhaustion. Plus they don't come up that often anyway, unless you have like really specific stuff. But anyway, so that's Cobbler's Tools, baby.
All right. There was one other thing in the Cobbler's Tools that I saw that was kind of nifty. You can create hidden compartments in people's shoes.
Oh, yeah.
You can spend 8 hours and make a little hidey hole in somebody's boot.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
But yeah, moving on. Cook's utensils. This is just basically, you get a metal pot, knives, forks, a stirring spoon, and a ladle. So you are the party's cook. But you can also use your knowledge of cooking stuff to, you know, find out like the history of a certain event if it's food related, or something along those lines. You can also, with the medicine check, you can make the medicine taste better, just because, you know, why not? And you're just you're able to make the food for everybody. When you do a short rest, you can make it a tasty meal that adds an extra hit point per hit die spent.
Nice.
Yeah.
Why not?
So yeah, I mean, it's all just, you know, cooking stuff. You can also, as one of like the more mechanically good things that you can do with it, is you can also spot poison and stuff in food or something that's not right. You're able to recognize, hey, that's people. That's not beef. Whatever. But yeah, that's Cook's Tools in a nutshell.
Incredible. I love Cook's Tools. I'm a big fan. I think it works really well with the cooking feat being the feat that where you gain proficiency with them, and then also can do extra cooking and stuff like that. I think they're really fun.
Yeah.
Next is a tried and true, a classic, the Disguise Kit. the perfect tool for engaging in trickery. The disguise kit components include cosmetics, hair dye, small props, and a few pieces of clothing. So pretty basic stuff. Now, of course, you can use it for a ton of different skill checks to aid you in that skill check. Now, how you as the DM decide to run all of these things, and this is true for all of the tools and skill checks and stuff with them involved. Like, if the player is proficient in deception and also proficient with a disguise kit, you could just give them advantage on the deception check.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? You don't have
or
to.
Or make a disguise kit check, and then if they do well enough, then they get advantage.
Yeah.
Type of deal.
Absolutely. Something along those lines. I like that a lot. So, the obvious ones for disguise kit would be deception, intimidation, performance. Obviously, depending on how good your disguise is, it could help in any one of those ways. Whether it's improving your chances of lying, scaring somebody by having something going on like a disease. Maybe you're a leper and you're putting in like crazy stuff on your face. A performance, obviously, it would help that. Persuasion, if you're in a uniform or something like that, maybe you can get by as an authority figure. A lot of easy stuff. And as part of a long rest, you can create a disguise. It normally takes a minute to put on the disguise once you've already created it, but then it's just created. It's ready to go.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Now, if you're going rules as written, according to Xanathar's, you can only carry one such disguise on you at a time without drawing undue attention unless you have a bag of holding, which I give to every single adventuring party as soon as I possibly can.
Yeah, because why not?
Because why not? Because encumbrance can go hang out with gaming sets.
You're goddamn right.
I just looked at the order since we're going back and forth.
You're getting gaming
I got
sets.
Gaming.
Yeah.
I'm furious.
Yep.
Furious.
We can switch.
Never. I'm going to bring them down. Go for it.
Okay. Next one on the list, we're looking at the forgery kit. This is kind of along same vibes as the calligrapher supplies, only this is like you're able to like craft passports and stuff and make these really intricate kind of forgeries that's not so much about the fancy writing but more about like the letterhead and the emblems and stuff involved. You can obviously you're going to still have the ability to spot fakes. You're able to do good like deception checks with, you can just make a fake writ of passage or something like that. You can use it to back up a lie that you're telling or something like, yeah, see, totally, like the king sent us. Here's the freaking thing. But yeah, so you are able to, it says specifically in here, the forgery kit allows you to use other toolkits more effectively for making fakes. So like if you're proficient with a forgery kit and cartographer's tools, then you're going to be able to make like fake maps and stuff. You're also able to, as part of a short rest, you can make a forged document, like a 1-page forged document. As part of a long rest, you can do up to 4.
Wow.
And then this is all going to be based on intelligence. I don't know why I keep getting the hiccups. But yeah, so like you're able to do stuff like not only imitate the writing, but also you can imitate like the wax seal that goes on it and like the different coat of arms and stuff like that. So it's got different colors of ink and stuff like that, a bunch of different types of paper and stuff. So you are able to do a lot more than you would with the calligrapher supplies, although having proficiency with forgery and calligraphy would give you a better chance at succeeding on certain things.
Yeah.
Because this
like
doesn't necessarily say that you can't necessarily forge the signature. You can forge the wax seal and all that stuff, but the signature is going to be a little bit trickier because you're not a calligrapher.
Right. Yeah. Plus, if you're good with forgery, you will also be able to identify forgery.
Right. You'll be a lot better at spotting it.
Yeah.
And that's like across the board. It's not like, okay, well, I'm good with cartographer's tools, so I can spot fake maps. This is, I can spot fakes.
Yes. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. Now it's on to your favorite.
Well. Look who we have here. The gaming kits, gaming sets. If that is your real name. Such as 3 Dragon Ante. Go fuck yourself.
Sure.
The components, well, it's all the pieces that you need to play that specific game, such as a complete deck of cards or a board and tokens. Boy.
Dragon chess.
Yeah. So, obviously, you can do history, the important events, whatever that was connected to the game or the historical figures that are worked into the game. That seems like that will never fucking come up. I mean, unless, I don't know. There was one time where I put
I'm going to write
puzzle in the game that was chess-based, and it by no means did gaming kit proficiency come up, but it could have been one of those times where it's like, well, you're good at chess, so this chess-based puzzle you're not much better at or something like that, so I guess. And then insight, these are the 2 that actually make sense. Insight and sleight of hand. Because you're so proficient with the game, you're actually that much better at understanding the different players' personalities, and you have a better ability of discerning their lies or reading their mood. Sleight of hand, you're better at cheating. So, those make sense. That makes a ton of sense to me. Other than that, stupid. Because it's one of those situations where I would definitely, if somebody made a point of a player of being like, since we're playing cards and I'm proficient with cards, can I make an insight check with advantage?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, you can.
Yes, you can. Because
finally, this
when
kit is getting
is
some
it going to fucking
use.
come up? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And that's all I'm going to say on gaming kits.
Fair enough. Moving on to the next one, glass blowers tools. Obviously, this is the stuff that you need to blow glass. Blowpipe, a small marver, whatever the hell that is. Blocks and tweezers and stuff. It does not include a heat source, so you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do for that. And it's just kind of the same old as far as, you're able to figure out the history of glass made objects, and, you'll be able to determine possibly who made such, or, it says that you can use you can study how a glass potion bottle has been changed by its contents to help determine a potion's effects. That one is, sure, we'll go with it because it's in there, but that's something I would generally reserve for an alchemist check. But if you don't have an alchemist in the group and you do have a glass blower, cool. Yeah, sure. You find some weird residue and it makes the glass look weird.
For sure.
You're able to determine how broken glass goes back together type of deal, or you can identify the weak spots in some kind of glass or something like that. And you can, in the very rare instance of D&D, you can call a shot to the weak spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then that basically that weak spot is vulnerable to damage as long as you're like, hey, I'm attacking the weak spot in this glass. Okay, cool. Damage is doubled.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's glass blower kit.
Yeah, glass blower. There you go. After that, we have another pretty common or popular one, I'll say, with the herbalism kit. Herbalism kit. Hey, dog, you're good with herbs, pretty much.
Hey.
It includes pouches to store herbs, clippers and leather gloves for collecting plants, a mortar and pestle, and several glass jars. So, yeah, you're just good at identifying plants and different natural things of that nature to potentially use in a number of ways, whether it's poisons, cures, food, whatever it may be. So you can do arcana and medicine to identify herbs or substances, ailments, diseases, all different kinds of stuff. Nature and survival can help you find food or identify plants. And then you're going to be a little bit better than most people when it comes to investigation if you're in an area overgrown with plant life. So
yeah,
some different
forest
options.
floor, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty standard stuff for the herbalism kit. Does it involve plants?
Right. Is it plant related? Cool. I'm gonna do an herbalism kit check. Moving on to the next one, jeweler's tools. This obviously is also super self-explanatory. You get a small hammer, some files, pliers, tweezers, and you can do stuff with gems. Basically, you can learn stuff about the history of a certain gem. You can learn how possibly a specific gem is used magically. You're able to just, use your proficiency to pick out clues and anything in some kind of a gem. Like maybe there's a crack in some diamond and you're like, oh, that's because this person looked at it or something. I don't know. You use it how you want. If it's got to do with a jewel or a gem, it goes to the jeweler guy. And you're also able to identify and determine value of gems is another that's a mechanical one that's could play into like shopping trips and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that being really useful, that last part.
Mm-hmm.
Another potentially useful one, depending on the campaign, is land and water vehicles. Looks like we're combining these two guys. So it just means you're good with different land and water vehicles, right? You know how to use them.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. Yeah. So if land chariots, fucking wagons, carts, whatever, water vehicles, you nailed it. Boats, ships, whatever.
Raft.
A raft, a canoe, we'll take it. And it also potentially means, like, for water vehicles, it also means that you'll be knowledgeable about things that a sailor would be familiar with. So things about the sea and islands, tying knots, assessing weather and sea conditions. So an extra little bonus there for water vehicles. Now, in the listing of these things, some of these are a little bit of a stretch because it's talking about, like, if you find a magical vehicle, hey, you can make an Arcana check, figure out how that magical vehicle works. If for some reason you're looking for clues on or around a vehicle, maybe a little bonus to investigation and perception checks. And then the most obvious, probably the most prevalent, the one that will probably help the most, is because you are proficient in handling those vehicles, you get to add your proficiency to the vehicle's armor class and saving throws, which I did not know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's very, very cool. It's one of those things that doesn't come up a lot because just doing combat that involves vehicles is a challenge in and of itself. But this is a really cool thing because it's a straight thing. It's adding proficiency. So it's not like you just bump the AC by whatever and then it's just static. It just stays there. So it's pretty simple to do. But I like that a lot. But that's land.
Yeah, I also like the other thing for the sea, water vehicles is the tying knots. That's useful just in general.
Oh yeah,
like
no doubt.
In real life, in fantasy world, it doesn't matter. Knowing how to tie different types of knots is super super handy.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next one, leatherworkers tools. You work with leather. So you get all the things that comes with a knife, a mallet, an edger, hole punch, thread, some leather scraps. You can obviously inspect magical items that are made out of leather and figure out how they work possibly, or look for clues or maybe find some hidden details that somebody else maybe missed. You can even look at the leather and tell what type of animal it came from, which is cool. Another good way to lore dump. Oh, well, this came from, a rhinoceros or something. I don't know. That's the first animal that came to mind.
Jesus.
Yeah. I was trying to think of some kind of exotic animal that not everybody would know, and like rhinoceros. I've never even seen a rhinoceros in real life. I don't think.
Oh,
maybe
really?
at a zoo once. But that's about it. I've definitely I don't know what it would feel like to the touch. Like, who knows? Yeah. Like sharks look like they should be slimy, but they're not. They're like super rough and sandpapery.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm really not. I feel like I've never touched a rhino. I'll say that. I feel like I know exactly what a rhino would feel like. I feel so
That's
confident. Fair. It's like a weird
But would
thing
you be
in
able
my
to
head.
tell the difference between rhino and elephant?
Not even a little bit. I think they feel remarkably similar.
I would agree with you. They both live in that weird, dry, arid climate, so they have that super dry skin. But telling the difference between the two, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. And that's where the leather workers tools come in.
There you go.
Getting back on topic, you're up next.
So from here on out, a lot of these tools, just to speed up ever so slightly, here's what I'll say. Almost every single one had listed like history and investigation and perception. And every single one is exactly the same. So the next one up is Mason's tools. So now you're very good at crafting stone structures. So it's everything that the carpentry tools have, but instead of wood, it's fucking stone.
Yeah.
So you get a trowel, a hammer, a chisel, brushes, and a square. Now, just like I said, you're really good with history checks because you can look at a stone building and figure out the date of construction, its purpose, maybe insight into who might have built it. That's going to be true for everything here on out. And it's true for a lot of the things we already covered. Leather workers. Hey, look at this hide armor. I bet it was built by dwarf or whatever, you know? You figure it out. Same thing, investigation and perception. Yep. You get extra insight when you're looking at stone structures. You can spot irregularities. Same exact thing as the carpentry tools, but now it's stone. The interesting one, similar to glass blowers, demolition. Your knowledge of masonry allows you to find weak spots in brick walls. You can deal double damage. So some siege really damage with stone. That's really, really cool.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So there you go.
And a lot of stone stuff has like a minimum damage threshold that you have to overcome, which when you're doing double damage is going to be a lot easier to do.
A lot easier. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving on to the next one. Musical instruments. Freaking, you're good at music. I mean, that's really it. You can write music, you understand music, you know the history of songs and stuff like that and different whatever. But yeah, and you're good at performing with music. There you go.
Yeah.
Bam. Musical instruments done.
That's pretty much it, right?
There's really not a whole lot to it.
No. Okay. So next up, what's after?
Navigator's tools.
So now we're at the navigator's tools. So you can figure out your true course based on observing the stars. You're good with charts and maps, whatever. You get a sextant, a compass, calipers, a ruler, parchment, ink, and a quill. You're really good at survival, baby. That makes a ton of sense. Less likely to get lost. Obvious. You're also good at sighting, which apparently is when you take special measurements and you can determine your position on a nautical chart and the time of day. So yeah, you're just good at that kind of shit. You're just like, hey, there's the sun. It's about 3:00. So
yep. Yeah, pretty much. That's
pretty cool. Obviously, the most important stuff is like the survival stuff. You're not going to get lost. You're better at navigating through things, better at reading maps and stuff. So that can be very helpful.
Yep. Next one, painter supplies. You get an easel, canvas, paints, brushes, charcoal sticks, and a palette. And you know a lot about art as really the gist of it. All your checks regarding the lore and the past of art are good. You are possibly able to recreate a painting or something like that. You can, get additional insight about the painter themselves. If their brushstrokes were super quick and light, that means XYZ or something along those lines. And you're also able to make a reference picture. Like if you see somebody's face, you can basically be a sketch artist type of deal. And, hey, have you seen this guy type of situation?
Yeah. It's huge.
Yeah, that's basically painter supplies.
That's basically painter supplies.
That's basically painter supplies. The big things are, the history checks and being able to look at different art and recognize when and where and how they came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the big things. Next up, Poisoner's Kit. Hey, Alchemist supplies not enough for you? You want to get super hyper focused on specifically poison? Then the Poisoner's Kit is for you. It's used often by thieves and assassins and others who engage in one of my favorite words of all time, skullduggery. And
I love it.
It includes glass vials, a mortar and pestle, chemicals, and a glass stirring rod. Again, you're going to be able to do history because that's going to come up a ton because you can recall facts about infamous poisonings. I guess that could be a thing, actually,
Yeah.
You're like, oh, well, famously, this person was poisoned, so it is on your radar. That could be interesting, I suppose. Investigation, perception. Hey, you can handle those substances. You have an edge when you're inspecting poisoned objects or trying to extract clues from an event that involves poison. Medicine, you're good at treating poisons. That's obvious. Nature and survival, you can work with poisons. You know the acquired lore about plants and animals that are poisonous. And your proficiency with Poisoner's Kit means that you can handle poison and apply it without any risk of exposing yourselves to the effects, which is cool.
I honestly never would have considered that it would be possible to accidentally poison yourself, but I guess it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're in the heat of combat and you're trying to be really fast with stuff and you just like pull out a bottle of super intense toxin and try and apply it to your dagger and just accidentally nick yourself.
Right.
Like, oh no. Oh no.
This is a problem.
The room's going dark and I'm feeling cold
I'm out.
and I'm out. And I'm dead. That's the Poisoner's Kit.
Cool. Next one on the list, the potter's tools. You get potter's needles, ribs, scraper, a knife, and some calipers. Again, it's going to be the same history checks and investigation checks regarding the history of pots or the current disposition of pots and different ceramics and stuff like that. You are also able to look at a broken ceramic and kind of figure out what it used to be, which is kind of big as far as like
I can see that
some different clues and stuff that I along with the glass blower's kit, I think that's a very handy skill that could potentially lead to some clues and stuff. Not to mention the history bits and all that, but other than that, you're just you make clay things. That's your deal. You make clay stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. After potter's tools are smith's tools. These pretty cool. I mean, you're a blacksmith, right?
Yeah.
So that
of
course, that's one of those ones that almost immediately the transition between what you're doing before adventuring and adventuring. I imagine this what comes up. I mean, the hardest thing is the source of fire, like the glass blowers.
Right.
Is like finding fire that is hot enough
that
to
and an
melt
anvil.
Metal and stuff like that.
Because you're not going to carry an anvil around with you either, and that's something that's not included with the Smith's Tools kit.
Joke's
that
on you. I never leave my house without my anvil. Jokes
what
on
an
you.
absolute unit. An absolute unit. Those things are hundreds of pounds.
I have anvils dropping from the sky. Call me Bugs Bunny. Okay.
Stop.
Moving on. Smith's Tools allows you to work with metal. The tools include hammers, tongs, charcoal, rags, and a whetstone. So obviously you can learn a lot about different metal objects specifically, or not only specifically, but such as weapons. Because again, blacksmiths don't only make weapons and armor and shit like that, right? They make other metal objects as well. So you get additional insight into those things using Arcana and History. Investigation, you can spot little clues, make little deductions, other things that people might overlook. And the big one is repairing. So as long as you have access to your tools and an open flame that is hot enough to make metal pliable, and that's one of those things where the DM can either fucking in the middle
A regular
of the
campfire
session.
is not going to do it. And
Yeah.
like IRL, a regular campfire is not going to do it. You're going to need a bellows or something like that.
Definitely not. You're definitely going to need something. But it's one of those things. I mean, hey, do you guys have a lot of spell slots and you're willing to burn a bunch of spell slots to like make a magical fire? Like, I would allow that. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You want to burn 3rd level fireball to fix your armor a little bit? I'm down for that. But here we go. You can restore 10 hit points to a damaged metal object for each hour of work. I think that's really cool.
Hell yeah.
You can also sharpen a dull blade, repair a suit of armor, all kinds of interesting stuff. Sunder a non-magical metal object. Sunder. It's a powerful word. But okay, that's Smith's Tools.
Cool. The next one, I think we talked about it ad nauseum at the top, but Thieves' Tools. You're going to get a small file, set of lock picks, a small mirror mounted on a metal handle, like a little telescoping kind of thing. And then a set of narrow bladed scissors and a pair of pliers. So this is going to be for, not only picking locks, but also disarming traps or setting traps. Everything along those lines. Like I said, we talked about this ad nauseum. Thieves' Tools, they're super handy. Rogues get them. A lot of classes just get them out of hand. They're the tools that are going to see the most use in pretty much every D&D table.
Yeah, they come up a ton.
Mm-hmm.
They come up a ton. But that's a great one. Thieves' Tools.
Yep.
Another really big one, in my opinion, is Tinker's Tools. These are the tools of a tinker. So you can repair all different kinds of mundane objects. This is kind of like your little toolkit that you would just like keep in your house. Like, you're not a handyman, you're not an architect or a carpenter or a blacksmith, but you still have tools in your house. That's kind of how I think of it. Tinker tools include a variety of hand tools, thread, needles, a whetstone, scraps of cloth and leather, and a small pot of glue.
Gotta have the glue.
Gotta have that glue, that sweet, sweet smelling glue. Anyway, history, you can fucking look at the age and origin of objects. They all do this for everyone. Investigation. Hey, how was this item damaged and how long ago? You'll figure it out. And then repair. Just like the blacksmiths, you can repair 10 hit points of a damaged object for each hour of work. You just need access to the raw materials required to repair it.
Fair.
And if it's metal, you need a hot flame. But yeah, Tinker Tools.
Yeah,
Also, the last thing I'll say about Tinker Tools is I also extend them just because of vibes, really. There's no reason necessarily. I've also extended Tinker's Tools to be a soft form of like hacking in modern 5e campaigns.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Because not a lot of the other ones make a ton of sense. Maybe Thieves' Tools, you can kind of just
Forgery
be like...
kit makes sense.
Forgery kit. Yeah, there's probably tools in a bunch of them. But yeah, Forgery kit, you could definitely use some of the stuff there. Thieves' Tools, Tinker Tools, I'm fine with a bunch of them. But like, just having it established, like, hey, we're playing a 5e modern campaign. Some of the locks are going to be like electronic locks, or like you're getting into the bad guy's phone. Here's what we're going to... And it's just like a set thing before the game even starts. That's like a session 0 kind of thing. Absolutely not. Your gaming kit means nothing at this table. Shame.
All right. Next to last, we're looking at the Weaver's Tools. This is pretty much the same stuff that we've been talking about, but with cloth. So you know how to make cloth. You know how to like work a loom. You can't bring a loom with you, obviously, but you do have thread, needles, scraps of cloth. You have additional insight when you're looking at cloth objects, cloaks, robes, stuff like that. You have good knowledge of like how all of that stuff is made. You can maybe spot some clues or something like that when you're looking at a tapestry or clothing or something like that to figure out different clues and stuff about those things that other people would miss or wouldn't necessarily be looking at. As a part of a short rest, you can just repair a single damaged cloth object. It does not specify that it can't be armor. So if you have like a light cloth armor or something like that, you can just repair it out of hand on a short rest.
Pretty cool.
And then also, as long as you have enough cloth and thread, you can just create an outfit for somebody as part of a long rest, which is cool.
Yeah.
It says for a creature. So like, you know, you got a little frog friend. You want to give him a cool little robe, cool little frog robe. There you go. Long rest.
Yeah.
There you go. You can have
Make him a pair of pants.
Little frog robe. Make him some pants. Frogs
Make
canonically
him some
love pants.
Stop being stingy.
Stop being stingy. Give that frog some pants.
Put some pants on that goddamn frog. That naked frog. Sir, your frog is naked. Put some pants on him. Hold on, I'll give you a long rest. I'll take care of it. And then last and probably least. No, I'm kidding. The Woodcarver's tools. No, Woodcarvers are cool. A lot of interesting things. I mean, hey, you got the Arcana, you got the history, you got the investigation. You're that much better at looking at these fucking wood carved items and stuff like that. Your items,
yeah, but this is
that
more
are
like
included are.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all good. So the tools that you get with the Woodcarver's tools: a knife, a gouge, and a small saw. So some normal things. It's a wooden object, so it's meant to be like smaller things comparatively to the carpenter and stuff like that. So this is like the person who would make like wooden toys compared to wooden buildings. So like figurines and arrows, you would get additional insight into and stuff like that. Nature checks. You know trees, baby. You know wood, and you could repair objects on a short rest. And you can also craft arrows, which I found pretty interesting. I didn't really consider that.
That's pretty cool.
But it does make sense that a woodcarver would be just, I guess, a little bit better at making arrows. And so a short rest, you can make 5. And a long rest, you can make 20. You just need enough wood to produce them, which is really crazy. So that's it. Those are all of the toolkits that currently exist in D&D 5th edition. And there's all different kinds, and we're going over all of the different uses and stuff like that are kind of listed. That does not mean that there isn't some out of pocket or, out of the box thinking ways to use these tools. I know our players have probably done it before. There's so many different things. Like, especially if you're kind of switching up the campaign a little bit instead of doing like a more modern, if you are doing like a more modern campaign, for example, then you might want to switch it up a little bit. Like maybe the potter's tools aren't going to come up as often because it's like, who's making pottery on the go? But I don't know. I mean, like, just thinking outside the box. That's the important thing. Like, who knew that you could use brewer's supplies to create fresh water? I didn't know that before this.
But it is a necessity for a brewer.
Taylor, water's a necessity for everybody. That's why Big Tap sponsors So You Wanna Be a DM.
There it is. Well, that's
Big
all we
Tap,
can get into
bringing
this
water.
time. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at So You Wanna Be a DM, or you can ask us a question at soyouwannabeadm@gmail.com. If you liked the episode, don't forget to give us 5 stars and a review wherever you found us, and check out the Patreon and Twitch with the link in the description. Join us next time for more Dungeon Master tips and tricks.
Bye.
See you.
And now I have the honor of giving a shout out to the members of our Patreon gang. Lee, we can't wait to roll dice with you. Nub Muffins, may Paylor's light shine upon you. And there's Vanessa D, Talk Screen, and Tappy. If you want a shout out, join the Adult or Ancient Dragon gangs on Patreon. Tune in next time for more tips and tricks from So You Wanna Be a DM.